So all of those things that we just talked about require a process of use case ideation. Use case ideation is the process of deciding how and where and why to implement AI in your business for practical, meaningful impacts. All of that is important, right? There's a much longer definition of use case ideation, but this is the most boiled down definition. How, where, and why. And I see we have a question there. We'll get to that right after this. How, where, and why. How are you going to implement AI? What are some of the ways, some of those use cases? Where, which departments, which tools, and why? Are we trying to save time? Are we trying to save resources? Are we trying to save money? Are we trying to be cutting edge? What's the deal? And then practical, meaningful impacts. We're going to talk about ROI and tracking impact in just a second. And that is half the battle, right? If you start with a baseline and that's why we talk about starting with existing processes first, so you know where you're starting and how much AI has helped. So it looks like we have a question from Will. Will said, regarding adoption, curious when a person or company will feel left behind if they haven't hit the run phase. Is that 2 years from now, 5 years from now? I don't think that anyone will feel left behind if they don't hit a certain phase. There's not really a defined gate keeping anything from crawl to walk and walk to run. That's something that's just a framework. It's just a guideline for your adoption phase, where if all you're doing is just those crawl things, that's totally fine, right? Some of our largest partners that we work with, we have people who have hundreds and hundreds of employees, and they're just using chat. They're okay with that, right? They haven't moved into agents and workflows and lots of integrations. They're using 4 or 5 integrations, and they're just using the chat, and they are more than happy with that, and they don't feel like they're being left behind. When we talk about adoption and impact, which we'll look at in, I think, 1 or 2 slides, you'll see how you can start to think in a mindset of not being left behind, but being, like we said, proactive about why we're doing this. You're being strategic about your adoption. And if the strategy that you have is to get everyone secure, that should be the first step. So you're not left behind, right? You're just securing everyone so no data is leaking out. Then from there, it's all about scaling. Let's actually look at that in just a second.
Well, and Mark, real quick, you'd mentioned that, at some businesses, they might just be interacting with the chat, and that's okay. Do you guys see that a lot of times in larger businesses that, the majority of staff will use, or will be in the walk phase, whereas maybe like leadership might move into walk and run a little bit quicker, or they're like the only ones who move into that phase? Can you speak to that a little bit?
That's a great question, because AI, there's so many different talk tracks that we can go with this. And so one that sometimes we bring up is, whereas something like cybersecurity is top down, right? We are doing this. This is a mandate. AI is bottom up, right? We talked about that at the beginning, where people are already using it. So the ones who are moving from crawl to walk to run tend to be both at the highest and at, I don't want to say the lowest, but it's really just a matter of curiosity. It's the whole spectrum, right? We say that AI adoption follows the org chart. So if your CEO isn't making it a priority, or your head of sales isn't making it a priority, chances are people are going to be using it, but it's not going to be as impactful or as meaningful. But at the same time, and I've seen this across probably more than half of the companies that we work with, it's not the department heads that are the ones who are moving faster. It's the ones who are the office manager, it's the summer intern, right? Who figured out, hey, I can do half of this with AI. They're the ones who are being the most curious and the most creative, and they're finding ways to adopt it that help them save and I'm not exaggerating here, sometimes up to 30% of their time. Um, if you think about AI saving time, you have a team of 5 people and you all save 20% of your time. That's like adding a sixth person, right? In terms of how much you can do as a human. It's all about getting human time back and human resources back. So we don't really see that it's just the people at the top of the org chart who are moving through those phases quickly, but they are encouraging and guiding everyone else, and they're saying it's okay. CEOs who put their hand up and say, here's how I used AI today, and here's something that I tried, but it didn't work. Sharing successes and failures makes it feel like it's okay for everyone else to do the same thing. Internally, we have a company Slack channel that's just called How I Use AI. And everyone's always putting stuff in like, hey, I tried this and it didn't work. Anyone have any ideas? And people will do some quick prompt engineering and use case ideation and share their thoughts. Oh, I tried that actually with this prompt and it worked better. Or, oh, did you try, Exa instead of Tavili or whatever it is? Like it's cool. And it helps foster that feeling of like, no, this is cool. We're doing something together. Which kind of leads into this slide though. Like professionals know their industry and their role. People who, and I feel bad just reading this, but it is important. People who are experts in their field and know a little bit about AI will always build better AI tools than AI experts who are not experts in every field. What that means is, like, I know a lot about hats. I know a lot about prompt engineering. I know a lot about AI adoption. I am not an accountant. I am not a salesperson. I am not in operations. I don't write code. There's so many things that I don't do that if I tried to come into a company and say, here's how you should be using it, I'm not going to come up with real good, meaningful, impactful, helpful use cases. But if you learn 10% more than you know now about AI, you will be able to come up with some of the coolest use cases, things that I will never think about in 100 years. We see this all the time. I run use case workshops with our partners, and they come with use cases that their clients are working through, and they say, "Hey, can you take a look at this?" I would never come up with those, but I can help. Oh, it looks like maybe if you prompt this a little bit differently, we can it'll get a better result. That's where our value is, right? But you guys, AI is not something that is like we're not gatekeeping access to AI here, right? I have AI experts in quotes because you will never be an expert. I will never be an expert at AI. It moves way too fast. Again, even Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, he says he's not an expert because there's so much more to learn all the time. So you really just have to get curious, get a little bit creative, and spend time learning a little bit more than you do now, and you're going to come up with the best use cases. There are 3 steps. Feel free to take a screenshot of this or write this down. When I do use case ideation, I literally pull out a pen and paper and I jot things down. I map out my process for the day. We have a training on our learning portal about use case ideation. There's a whole use case workshop that you can go through where you document and diagram your processes. Here's the task, here's how long it takes me. Then you break down all of the steps and you write down where the data lives, who has access to it, what steps they take with it. The example is always, social media. Researching something to post on social media, writing it, getting an image, and then posting it. How many of those steps can be augmented with AI? How much time can that save? How many times do I do it every week? There's your calculation. So, think about things like time, quality, efficiency.